I'm back from 2 days at the influential D conference, which is organized by Kara Swisher and Walt Mossberg of the Wall Street Journal. And amazing time there. The most impressive, obviously, was Steve Jobs in person, which is rare. And I was, as expected, very, very impressed, but also Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Ballmer, James Cameron. So I tried to put together my thoughts about this event and not to talk about the amazing networking there with VCs, industry leaders, really, really cool. But there, I came back with like 4 questions, which were, I think, underlying all the talks, for me at least, that we listened to and had. The first one was the trucks. Steve Jobs just announced the end of the PC era. I mean, that's like a big deal. PCs, he meant both Macs and PCs, right? It's like PCs as computers as we use them today. Comparing them to trucks, like when he started explaining when the cars started, the automotive industry started to appear, there were mostly trucks because they were the most useful, as people could not afford to get a car and there were not enough convenient personal cars, basically. So everybody had trucks. And then trucks became a minority just for specific professional use, rather than personal, of course, cars, which became the majority. So comparing the PCs to trucks means for him that devices such as the iPad and the iPhone will be majority compared to your old, keyboard-driven computer. And that's like a big, big statement that I've been thinking about for 2 days since I heard him say that. And I think it's not really about the keyboard. I think it's more about mobile versus desktop or even laptop, because the keyboard is, I think, more necessary. So Steve Jobs said that the keyboard would be necessary less than like 10% of your time, and that you could enjoy the iPad all the rest of the time. And I've been really trying. I love my iPad. I've been really trying to do this, but I'm not very productive on it without a keyboard. So I don't think that's really true, but we will see. I might be too old on this. Really interesting laughs from Steve Ballmer saying that the only trucks could be Macs and not PCs. So it was kind of interesting to see them fighting between each other. But I'm not too much with Steve on this one, that everything will be a multi-touch screen. I'm not too sure. We will see. I think it's more about mobile against laptop or desktop, and that for sure will be the case. I've been to Japan 2 weeks ago, and you can just see the future. They don't care about anything which is not mobile, any app which is not mobile. Everything happens on the mobile, and I think that's what this whole thing means. And it's very good to rewire yourself into mobile first. Mobile is the most important, and then desktop, and notebooks and laptops. So that's, I think, more of a trend for me. First question, not really a question. Well, I kind of disagree with the iPad becoming the main device for everybody. We will see if I'm wrong. Second question is apps versus web-based and search. That's another interesting question, where Steve Jobs said, he took the going to dinner example. Like, if you want to go and find a restaurant, what do? Do you search on your phone, or do you launch the Yelp application and find a restaurant around yourself? And he said people love apps on phones and they don't do search, which was a direct kind of response to, of course, Google's efforts around the web, around the mobile, or kind of some of them, because Android also has 50,000 plus apps now. But interesting question, apps or search or web-based? And I don't really have the answer of this one, but like a few hours after, we got Mark Zuckerberg, the head of Facebook, who said, I don't really believe in apps. Yet, ironically, he has one of the most popular app on mobiles. If you look, Facebook is always kind of the most popular app. But most of those apps, Facebook has not built. It's like for Twitter, BlackBerry, RIM, and Google built them for Facebook and for Twitter for free, just because they wanted them very, embedded in the phone. I am not sure about the if web-based is going to win versus apps. Also, as a cool thing which happened is Steve Ballmer laughing at the two operating systems, like Chrome and Android. It was kind of interesting. I don't know if he's right either, but what I think is happening is that both will win. This is why Google is probably playing the web-based and the apps. Steve Jobs is playing the web-based on Safari and HTML5 and the apps, and they're both like playing both. So I think apps have yet a lot of future, and that it's not really doable to do anytime soon what apps are doing on entirely web-based. So for example, the plugins we're doing for Sysmic, you cannot really do that. It's really tough on web-based. Same with all the games, you cannot really do, even though it's the future, web-based and HTML5, I think apps have a long future ahead of them. And if you think about it, all those leaders play kind of both at the same time, web and apps. But that was a real question where we don't really have the answer. Another question was open versus controlled. And Steve Jobs got obviously a lot of questions around the controlled app store. And I have to say I've been humbled by the way he approaches quality, saying that he would rather leave Apple than changing his core value, and the core value being, I want to build great products for people to use them. And if you think about the iPad and the iPhone, you rethought the entire way we interact with them. And by the way, interestingly enough, the iPad was actually an idea at Apple before the iPhone, when he had like those multi-touch screen he explained in 2000. And then they decided to do a phone with that technology, but it was first kind of a tablet. Interesting. But so anyway, if you think about open versus controlled, Steve is controlling the App Store, and when you pay so much attention to quality, I understand that you don't want crap apps being approved or apps that suck your privacy data, and is like sentence around Flurry, this app that you put in your app, which gives statistics, kind of in the back of the users, and he got really upset about it, was an interesting, also moment, I think, at D. I think, that's related, by the way, to also Zuckerberg being grilled around him controlling the social graph. And I think he answered, if not, that's kind of how I felt about it, that there is no other company or system, or open source, whatever, that maps the friendships between people for 500 million people like Facebook does. There is no open source alternative. So it's again the controlled system which kind of wins, and there is no open alternative. How can you blame that quality and control with so much success kind of succeeds when there is no open alternative? So I think we kind of have a tendency to blame everything which is controlled, where quality matters, and that's a mistake, because if it was that easy as everything open wins, it would have already happened. But for Facebook, and there is no open alternative to Facebook, there is no open source alternative to Twitter yet either. There are a number of people who tried, but they're still very small. And Android is open versus the App Store, but still the App Store is much bigger. We will see. But that's another question which kept me thinking, open versus controlled. Like, think about the way we do the feedback forums, where we ask everybody what they think about our products and we improve them based on that, which we will keep doing. Steve Jobs didn't need any feedback forums to create the iPhone or the iPad. So just interesting to think about crowdsourced ideas, open versus genius basically, and closed, which just works. I don't have an answer on this one. I guess we will see, but quality matters. The last question I was really, it's still in my head, is who will control the upcoming TV? And lots of conversations around, Steve Jobs giving crap to the networks, like such as Comcast, that and not only him but others, like their set-top box sucks, and that's true, right? If you play with your TV, you kind of feel you're in the past, and it's just horrible. And the reason why it has not been reinvented, according to Steve Jobs, is that the networks have been subsidizing and controlling that industry. Now, if you think about the trend, the Apple TV is now going to, which is not kind of big so far, but is going to allow apps. Google has announced Google TV, which will run both Chrome OS and will run Android apps. And I would be very surprised if Microsoft didn't come, like with Silverlight. You have Silverlight for your PC, for Mac, for your phone. I would be very surprised that there isn't a TV set-top box. They actually have one, which is the Xbox. And I would be very surprised that this doesn't happen. My point is, who will control the TV? Will it be all HTML5, web-based? I'm not sure about that, because the screen is so big that you want a lot of rich applications. But at the same time, it's never been that exciting for developers and for me that your app made for the iPhone, for Android, or for a desktop like Silverlight will go to millions of TV sets. I mean, that's so exciting. I think we are at the verge of a period where everything will change in the TV world, which some have tried, but it never kind of happened yet. And a network and a platform will be growing on top of TV, and we will be able to reach, hundreds of millions of people as developers on an open platform TV. Fascinating. Who will kind of control it? I don't know. You can feel Apple, Microsoft, and Google are all, working on it. I think as a developer, if you have limited means, you should definitely go only web-based. If you can afford apps, you should do both, because that's an open question. And it's unknown. Web will definitely be available everywhere, but you don't have the same rich applications yet. So anyway, lots of questions, fascinating conference. Thanks, Cara, for inviting me if you watch this. And amazing networking as well. Lots of open questions. I really enjoyed the James Cameron, the creator of Avatar and Terminator and Titanic and so on, Aliens, the movies, who said, there is nothing more exciting than when you don't know what's going to happen next. And clearly here we don't really know what's going to happen next, but we know it's one of the most exciting times in the web history ever, all the growth of platforms. So really, really excited about it, and amazing time meeting and listening to those leaders. Really impressed with Jobs.